Well, I've been sitting on this one for about a week because I wanted to avoid any not good news for Ghostbusters. But yeah, there's a little bit more to this than just Rick Moranis not appearing in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Hello, everyone. I am Mecha Random 42, the one, the only, the original. Your favorite YouTube harpy, huge Ghostbusters fan. This is actually, Ghostbusters 2016 especially, was kind of the ground zero for a lot of us here who just got tired of being insulted by films, really. And I am probably the biggest supporter of Ghostbusters Afterlife, even though we don't have the best news here about Rick Moranis not coming back. That being said, they could still always throw him in as a cameo last minute. They could fix this if we make a big enough, plea to please bring him in. Because there's a little bit more to this story than just he's not going to be in Afterlife. Now, a Vanity Fair report on Ghostbusters Afterlife confirms Rick Moranis will not be returning for the upcoming sequel, at least right now. And I know he probably won't. There's probably a 98% chance he's not going to be in it. But like I say, we might be able to say, please, 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 can we get him? Please, please, please. Just for a little bit, because you never know with these films, especially when they're still filming, especially now that we have a voice, now that we have instant communication and instant feedback, we can, say, and of course, respectfully, please, can we get Rick Moranis in this? Because that's the thing with Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's not of the same, anti-fan mentality that Ghostbusters 2016 was made from. This one is for the fans, by the right people with the right motivation to do it right, because they don't want their legacy going out on 2016. So yeah, so we do have the confirmation that we're not getting Rick Moranis back. But here's the related story. Here's why I waited until now to really talk about this. Rick Moranis might be coming out of retirement for a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids reboot. No, please don't do this, because A, nobody wants a reboot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, even if it is kind of a continuation. Those were fine. You had one really, really good one and a couple of crummy sequels. The first one was phenomenal. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Rick Moranis was one of those movie stars that I would pretty much watch anything that he was in, or John Candy. They were kind of my biggest, most favorite movie stars. They were the big one. They were the celebrities. Spaceballs, for crying out loud. I mean, come on, Rick Moranis, Spaceballs. I got the upside and the downside of the Schwartz thanks to Rick Moranis, mostly, because he really made that one. If he wasn't such a great Dark Helmet, that one wouldn't have probably been nearly as good as it was. It still would have been a masterpiece, light years beyond anything we're getting now, especially with stuff like Star Trek Discovery.
I like science.
No, you don't. You don't really like science.
This is so fucking cool.
No, not effing cool either. Please. The Diz Insider has exclusively learned that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids star Rick Moranis is in early talks to come out of retirement to star in the film's sequel. So now take this with a grain of salt. I don't know how accurate the Diz Insider is. I've never heard of them before. But this is, Now they're saying it's a reboot up here in the headline, which nobody wants a reboot. Do not remake this. Don't reboot it. What you could possibly do is just do a continuation, and you could Cobra Kai it. That could work out really well. And this is what it looks like here. He would be reprising as his role as. Can you maybe, I don't know, proofread your stuff for 1 second?
Proofread your shit!
He'll be reprising his role as Wayne Szalinski. Come on. It's not that hard.
Proofread your shit!
Just read it out loud like I do. I'm just reading it out loud, and See, it's not that hard. Even I'm correcting it as I'm reading it. But, I didn't write the article. A scientist who accidentally shrinks his and 2 neighboring kids. Well, his neighbor's kids, that's the thing. That's the thing with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It was such a classic. And why it was a classic? Because of all of the practical effects. Oh, they recreated all that stuff. That wasn't CGI. They went in and they made all these giant versions of stuff for the kids to wander around in. With the kids swimming through the giant bowl of Cheerios, he's actually in white water to look like milk. There was a not great sequel in this. It was the third one. It was written by Joel Hodgson from Mystery Science Theater 3000. The good era of Mystery Science Theater for me anyway. I really enjoyed the Joel stuff with Dr. Forrester. He wrote one of the worst sequels, the Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves one, and it was a straight-to-video home release. It was not theatrical. This is why I'm thinking, with all of this stuff, that if Rick Moranis comes back to this, what quality are we going to be getting? Is this just a contractual thing? Is he contractually obligated to appear in all of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids sequels, for example, where he's not obligated to appear in a Ghostbusters sequel because he wasn't like the main star? He doesn't have ownership in the property. He's not Bill Murray. He's not, because we know that Bill Murray's under contract for all of these. And that's how they got him for Ghostbusters 2016, was because they had to say, hey, you're under contract for a sequel. You got to come back. Rick Moranis, I don't believe, would be under the same type of contract, being just kind of a secondary character, albeit one of the best secondary characters. And here's the thing, I always like to compare and reference Rick Moranis and John Candy as being like huge movie stars to me when I was a kid. John Candy was supposed to be in this movie, I believe, as the role of Louis Tully, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me if I'm wrong in that one. That's just another one of the awesome things about Ghostbusters. For Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, though, this is another one that's kind of near and dear to my heart because I grew up watching, and I'm not even a Disney fan, but the live action stuff I can kind of justify because you can actually see the stuff. It's not animated, it's not a cartoon, it's not a bunch of CGI. So it kind of feels more like one of the 60s Disney movies to me. We want to mention again that he's in early talks with the studio, and at this point in time, he has not signed on to the project as of yet. Now, of course, they have a related article saying that director Joe Johnston is in talks to return for a reboot. They keep saying reboot. It wouldn't be a reboot, though. It would be a sequel. It would be a continuation, especially if you're getting back any of the older cast. Now, how many of the older cast can you, A, actually get back, B, are going to be believed? Like the kids, you could probably swap out most of them because a lot of those kids didn't really go on to do anything. And with like Rick Moranis, though, you really need him in any of these things. Like, you cannot just recast him. You can't replace him. You have to either write him out of the story entirely, and hopefully that'll be what they do over here in Ghostbusters, is just write him out of the story entirely, even though we do have Annie Potts coming back as Janine. So we don't know what happened there. Hopefully we're going to get some sort of update there, because last time we saw them, they were pretty much a couple, and they were going at it pretty hot and heavy, making out on the couch instead of babysitting Oscar. So can we at least get a little bit of what happened to him, especially if Annie Potts comes back, which I have heard that she is coming back, and she did. So now we did get Annie Potts back in, I want to say, it was some sort of an ad where she plays original 1984 Ghostbusters Janine instead of the more sassy, sexy 1989 version of Janine, which is fine. It's fine. I mean, I kind of liked seeing her a little more confident. I liked seeing her a little bit more put together. I liked seeing her character go from just the tough as nails, no nonsense secretary who just shows up because it's a job, to somebody who actually gives a crap. She really stepped up as a character, and she was that was one of the good things about Ghostbusters, is that even the secondary characters really had growth and development. But this is kind of a Ghostbusters and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids video. So now here's a plot synopsis of what a potential Honey, I Shrunk the Kids sequel, reboot, whatever they're calling it, is going to be. Aware that the family ties have loosened over time, but seemingly afraid to confront anyone directly, he has been tinkering alone in his attic for decades, dealing with the grief of losing his wife. When we first met him, he accidentally shrunk himself and is flying around on a shrunken drone, seemingly lost in a continuous in a continuous of tinkering and experimenting that often puts himself and his family in jeopardy. He later reveals he shut himself away to try and invent a solution to help shrink Diane's cancer, but found it hard. And thank you so much for subscribing. If you guys do enjoy my content, subscribe. You might as well, you never know when I'm making a new video. He invented a solution to try and help shrink Diane's cancer, but found it hard to cope when he ran out of time. His guilt and shame is palpable. Through the crisis of the kids getting shrunk, the truth emerges and the bonds begin to redevelop between him and his kids. The plan was for the movie to be set around 3 decades after the original, with Gad set to play the grown-up version of scientist and inventor Wayne Szalinski's son, Nick Szalinski, who was played by Robert Oliveri in 1989. The new movie would be a reboot of the original film, but positioned as a legacy sequel, which means it still exists in the same... So they want their cake and eat it too. They want to have a reboot and a sequel. Stop with the rebooting and the sequeling. That's really, really irritating. The film is set to start shooting in spring of 2020 in Toronto or Atlanta, and the film currently has no release date, but it will in fact be a theatrical release, not Disney+. The film stars Josh Gad. They've got Josh Gad coming in and is going to be Joe Johnston directing. The story was developed by Josh Gad. Oh, this is a Josh Gad passion project then. All right, so here's how to succeed in Hollywood without really trying. Go find an established property and reboot, reimagine, reinvent, do a sequel, do whatever. Because that's the Hollywood MO anymore. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it works, like in the case of Cobra Kai. That one turned out really, really well. But in everything else, like Charlie's Angels, for example, which is another one where you got an actor who comes in and is like, hey, I want to take this old property and make it my own. That is kind of a red flag for me. Are you guys on board with a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids sequel, reboot, whatever? I would almost rather they just leave it alone if it's going to be just one of these. We want to make a reboot or sequel because I want more than just to be an actor. And that's the real story here, is that this must be a Josh Gad sort of passion project where he wants to come in and take over the project like it's his own thing. And more power to you if you actually really believe in the project, Josh Gad. But if you're just doing this as a cheap cash grab, just to get a bigger piece of the pie because your name's going to be an executive producer and you're going to be one of the creative people responsible. It's probably going to be your own production company. Then you can let's just not, stick this one up your backside. We don't need another cash grab reboot. We already have the Joel Hodgson direct to video. It was a VHS sequel of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. We don't need any more. This one they can just kind of leave as a classic. I am Mecha Random 42, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye.